Hey everyone, Eric here, back with another video. Over the last few weeks, we've been looking at the plugin chain on my mix bus. I've gone through every individual plugin that sits on my mix bus most of the time, and I've talked about why I like it and what it does for me and why it deserves its place on my mix bus. We've gone through the SSL native bus compressor 2, the Loop Trotter Saturate 2, the channel limiter Zener Bender, the Elysia Alpha mastering compressor, and the Oxford inflator. Today, in a single video, let's have a look at what's on my master bus. These next plugins are the last bit of processing that the signal will go through before the file is rendered and delivered to wherever it needs to go, be it my distributor or my client or whatever. So without further ado, let's dive straight into it because we're going to do it in a single video, and I've got like 12 minutes and 40 seconds. So let's go. I've just got a mix here. I've deactivated all the other tracks except for my master bus, which I've made yellow. So let's go up the top here. We've got the FabFilter Pro Q4, the FabFilter Pro MB, the FabFilter Saturn 2, and the Shure Audio Tools Standard Clip, and then the FabFilter Pro L2. Did I say Pro L2 twice? Anyway, you can see what this is. Pro Q4, Pro MB, Saturn 2, Standard Clip, Pro L2. 4 out of 5 of these are FabFilter plugins, and the reason for that is that it's just really forgiving. You know, gives a very clean sound. The user interface is intuitive, and you know, it's easy to see what you're doing, and there are no kind of non-linearities where you don't want them to be, so that's really helpful as well. Let's have a look at the Pro Q4. These are my typical settings. Just wiping off the subs on the side channel to make the subs mono. Got a little bit of low mid bump in the sides for a bit of depth and girth. Typically I'll also have a bump at 1000 Hertz in the side channel. Sometimes I'll have a cut at 1000 Hertz in the mid channel as well, but these days not too often. Sometimes I'll also have a low shelf boost for the mid channel in the subs and the low end, just to give it a little bit more thump. And sometimes I'll also have a bell cut 200 Hertz just to kind of mimic the Pultec EQ low end trick and clean up any mud that might be there. But these days I don't really do that because I find that my mixes need as much low mids as they can get. And it's you know, it's hard for me to make a muddy mix, to be honest. Moving up, we've got a small 3 dB bump in the mid channel in the upper mids. Sometimes I'll have a cut in the side channel mirroring that, but these days I don't really do that because once I do, I find that everything in the sides kind of loses clarity, and I don't like that. So moving up again, we've got a rather large shelf boost at 6000 Hertz of 6 dB in the side channel, just to bring some air in the sides and give it a little bit more width. And then a 10k Hertz 3 dB boost on the shelf with a shelf filter on the mid channel. So this is the only EQ in the entire 2 bus that I will do some mid side processing. The reason I have a curve like this is mainly actually for stereo width. It's not really for tone shaping. Like, I do most of the tone shaping on the mix bus EQ, with the exception of, I guess, these 2 filters where I'm bringing some clarity and some air in the mid channel. But yeah, other than that, this is my main EQ for the master bus. You can see that there's a 20 Hertz and 20k Hertz brick wall high pass filter in stereo. That's just to clean up frequencies that people don't hear anyway, so it doesn't get in the way of our next stuff. Next thing is the Pro MB. Now I've just got 4 bands. Low and the highs are doing 3 dB of gain reduction. The highs I've got a slow release. Lows I've got fast attack, fast release. Slow release in the highs just to kind of smooth out the high end. Fast attack, fast release in the lows to really like control the low end. And I've got two mid bands here that have identical settings. They're compressing really heavily with a range of 60 dB of gain reduction and then 60 dB output. I find with my mixes that I don't really get any solid mid-range anywhere, and this is where I make it up. You know, like I really compress hard in the mid frequencies just to get that solid mid-range and to get it really, you know, solid sounding basically and glued together. This is where I get that mid-range, you know, to sit together. Some people might ask me why, if I have two bands here in the middle that are identical settings, why don't I just like make it one band so there's three bands in total? I have tried this. What I find it results in is it brings out a lot of 1000 hertz, like it brings out a lot of nasality in the vocal. If I just have these two bands combined into one. So splitting it up into two bands, I guess the crossover, the crossfade here, helps to not bring out as much 1K. But yeah, this works. Splitting it into, you know, making it into two bands works, even though the settings are identical. Whereas making it one band, it doesn't really work for me. And I guess I have the added versatility and flexibility of being able to tweak the settings of each of these two bands individually if I feel I need to, but oftentimes they stay identical because I want a solid upper mid, but I also want a solid lower mid. So yeah, next in the chain is the FabFilter Satin 2. I've got a preset here called Eric's Master Sat. I have a gentle saturation style with a 10% drive from about 200 hertz above. It's just giving me some harmonic distortion, but the main role that it has is soft clipping. So it's basically a pseudo soft clipper, which then feeds into my other plugins, a hard clipper and a limiter. But yeah, it just gives a little bit more energy and loudness here. I have it gain staged really carefully so that it's hitting here, and I just need 10%. You know, I don't need anything more. If I pump it anything more, it just starts to get a bit too distorted. Down here in the low band below 200 hertz, I've got a warm tube style set at 0%. This is by default for me in this preset. It gives me the option to kind of saturate the low end with this warm tube style if I want to. I've tried different styles here. I know the warm tube kind of does a thing where it adds second order and third order harmonics, but mainly second order harmonics. And the fundamental and the relationship between those harmonics and the fundamental, the ratio is higher than the other saturation styles. So what it does is, if I have a track with a really sharp transient, say in the sub, say the kick is like really booming at 60 hertz or something, and I want to tame that a little bit, but I'm missing some low mids, what I'll do is I'll kind of turn this maybe, you know, 5%, 10%, whatever. And what it will do is it will tame that transient in the low end, the 60 hertz kick, and it will also bring up some harmonics above it, and that will give me some of the warmth from those harmonics, but at the same time kind of tame the transient of that low end kind of thing. But I don't do that very often these days, because I find that once you have any saturation on the low end in the mix or the master bus, then the low end just feels really weak, and you start to miss the punch of it. So yeah, but it's there if I need it, by default, and it's not just there for me to drive if I need to. It's there to make sure that if I don't want any drive on it, there is no drive on it, and there's only saturation from 200 hertz and above. And I will sometimes slide this up and down. depending on, you know, what's going on in my song. Yeah, but it sits around 200 hertz. Okay, next is the Shure Audio Tools standard clip. I made another video about this at length, about why I love this clipper so much, but my settings for it is basically I'll have it at a hard clip setting, right? So I don't know why it says soft clip classic here. I have tried the hard. Well, I mean, I guess I'm looking at this graph here. I guess the difference is that there's not this soft clip saturator. If I turn this up, this knee, you can see that this knee will become a soft clipping knee. But I have it on minimum, which means it just works as a hard clipper. And I have the ceiling, the gain at 0 dB, the ceiling, I guess, off, the clip threshold to be set. Right now on this track, it's -2 dB, but it's often set to where it needs to be in order for me to get between 0.5 dB of clipping and 1.5 dB of clipping. So very, very, very modest clipping. I find that if I go, say, above 2.5 dB of clipping, then it sounds bad, like it's too distorted, and I can't use it. So I these days, I think I would prefer, like, yeah, even between 0.5 and 1 dB of clipping. And I just have to, you know, watch these two here and subtract the max peak to get the difference, because this plugin doesn't tell you, you know, in a number what, you know, the maximum peak. You have to like manually subtract it, which is annoying, but you know, whatever. And then after that hard clipping of, like, say 1 dB, I'm going into a limiter, Pro L2. Just got like a medium attack and release, got some oversampling on, -1 dB true peak. And I've got the gain set for me to, again, get between 0.5 and 1.5 dB of limiting. Sometimes I can go up to like 2-3 dB of limiting, but oftentimes I find that if by the time I get to this stage, if I'm doing that, then it's digging way too far into the music and it is causing distortion no matter what. So yeah, that's my chain. These days I aim for -9 LUFS, and yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you again in the next one. Cheers.